New Orleans did not rebuild one wall after Hurricane Katrina. It built a machine the size of a city. A concrete barrier now stands far outside downtown, waiting to block water before it reaches the most vulnerable neighborhoods. Giant gates conceal navigation canals. Massive pumps keep rainwater moving even when those gates are closed. And more than 100 miles of levees, flood walls, barriers, and control structures must operate as one connected system. Because storm surge does not need to destroy everything. It only needs to find one opening. August 29, 2005. Hurricane Katrina reached the Louisiana coast after growing into one of the largest storms ever recorded in the Gulf of Mexico. By landfall, its peak winds had weakened. But the ocean had already been moving for hours. Katrina's enormous wind field pushed water toward the coast, into Lake Borgne, through navigation channels, and toward Lake Pontchartrain. In eastern New Orleans, St. Bernard Parish, and Plaquemines Parish, the storm surge reached an estimated 15 to 19 feet. Along the southern shore of Lake Pontchartrain, it reached roughly 10 to 14 feet. This was not a normal wave that struck once and disappeared. It was a sustained rise in water level, with waves riding on top of it, pressing against levees and flood walls from several directions. Water overtopped long sections of the system. Other sections breached before the water reached their tops. Surge moved into the industrial canal. High water entered the 17th Street and London Avenue outfall canals. And once the protective perimeter opened, water flowed into neighborhoods that had almost no natural way to drain. Within roughly a day, about 80% of New Orleans was flooded. In the deepest areas, the water approached 20 feet. Homes disappeared beneath dark water. Vehicles floated through streets. Thousands of people became trapped in buildings and on rooftops. But the engineering failure was more complicated than a single broken wall. The regional system suffered 50 major levee breaches. 34 of the area's 71 pumping stations were damaged, and 169 miles of roughly 350 miles of protective structures were compromised. Engineers now had to answer a brutal question. How could so many separate defenses fail during the same storm? The investigation found several different failure mechanisms. At some locations, high water-loaded flood walls beyond what the surrounding soil could safely support. At others, water simply crossed the crest. But crossing the crest was only the beginning. When surge spills over a levee, it accelerates down the protected side. That fast-moving water tears away grass, soil, and clay. The slope begins to erode. A small channel becomes a deep trench. The trench cuts backward into the levee body, and eventually, the structure can open from the landward side, even though its front face is still standing. Of the 50 major breaches investigated after Katrina, 4 were classified as foundation-induced failures. The remaining breaches involved combinations of overtopping and scour. That changed the entire rebuilding strategy. The answer could not be only taller walls. A taller wall could still be defeated at a transition, a canal opening, an unprotected rear slope, or a weak foundation. New Orleans needed a closed system. It needed stronger individual structures. But more importantly, it needed to move the first line of defense away from the center of the city. Before Katrina, storm surge could travel deep into a network of canals and waterways. That exposed miles of interior floodwalls to rising water. Every additional mile created another possible failure point. The post-Katrina strategy pushed major closure structures outward. Instead of allowing surge to penetrate toward the urban core and fighting it along every canal, engineers would try to stop it earlier. The rebuilt hurricane and storm damage risk reduction system became a perimeter of nearly 133 miles. It included raised levees, stronger flood walls, surge barriers, navigation gates, canal closures, and pump stations. The authorized program ultimately received about $14.6 billion. But designing it required more than looking at Katrina and adding a few feet. Engineers modeled 152 synthetic hurricanes. The storms followed different tracks. They moved at different speeds. They had different sizes, pressures, rainfall volumes, and wind fields. Computers calculated how each combination could push surge and waves through the complex geography surrounding New Orleans. The designers also considered settlement, subsidence, sea level rise, and possible changes in future storm conditions. Only then could they determine the required elevation for each section. And one of the most important sections would stand about 12 miles east of downtown, the Inner Harbor Navigation Canal Lake Borgne Surge Barrier. From the air, it looks like a concrete line drawn across open marsh and water. It runs approximately 1.8 miles. Its upper elevation reaches roughly 25 to 26 feet above sea level. Its purpose is simple to describe. Stop storm surge from moving through the Mississippi River Gulf Outlet and Gulf Intracoastal Waterway toward the Inner Harbor Navigation Canal. But there was a problem. These waterways could not simply be filled with concrete. Boats still needed to pass. Commercial traffic still needed a route through the system during normal conditions. So the barrier had to be both permanent and movable. Most of the structure remains fixed, but 3 navigation openings cut through it. At the Gulf Intracoastal Waterway, engineers installed a 150-foot sector gate. Beside it is a second opening with a 150-foot barge gate. At Bayou Bienvenue, a 56-foot vertical lift gate creates another passage. During ordinary conditions, the openings allow water and vessels to move through. As a tropical system approaches, the gates close. The openings disappear. The separate pieces become one continuous defensive line. This is the central idea of the rebuilt system. Open when the city needs access. Closed when the city needs protection. And the barrier does more than defend one location. It connects the New Orleans East Risk Reduction System on one side with the St. Bernard system on the other. Without those connections, surge could move around the ends. The wall would become a very expensive obstacle with 2 enormous gaps. Every tie-in matters. Every elevation must match. Every movable gate must seal against a fixed structure. And every foundation has to carry the load through soft coastal ground. The barrier attacks the surge before it reaches the inner canals. But it cannot protect the city alone. Water can also approach from Lake Pontchartrain. 3 major outfall canals, the 17th Street, Orleans Avenue, and London Avenue canals, carry rainwater away from the city. Under normal conditions, local drainage pumps push water into these canals, and the canals release it toward the lake. During a hurricane, that system creates a dangerous contradiction. The canals must remain available to remove rainfall, but they can also become direct pathways for storm surge. Close them, and the city may trap its own rainwater. Leave them open, and the lake may push surge toward the urban floodwalls. The solution was to place closure structures and additional pumps near the mouths of the canals. When dangerous water rises in Lake Pontchartrain, gates close across the canals. That blocks surge from moving inland. At the same time, dedicated pumps move drainage water around the closed gates and discharge it into the lake. The permanent station at the 17th Street Canal has a total pumping capacity of 12,600 cubic feet per second. The Orleans Avenue station can move 2,700. The London Avenue station can move 9,000. Together, the 3 permanent canal stations can move 24,300 cubic feet of water every second. That is roughly 10.9 million gallons per minute. And they are designed with independent emergency power capability. Because a pump that depends entirely on the public electrical grid may become useless at the exact moment it is needed most. The gates solve the surge problem. The pumps solve the rainfall problem created by closing the gates. Neither system works properly without the other. Now move to the opposite side of the Mississippi River. Here, another structure protects communities on the West Bank. The West Closure Complex. This project combines a navigation gate, levees, flood walls, channels, sluice gates, and one of the most powerful drainage pumping stations in the system. At its center is a 225-foot wide sector gate. Under normal conditions, vessels can pass through the waterway. Before a major storm surge arrives, the two curved gate leaves rotate toward each other. They meet in the center. The navigation route becomes a wall, but once again, closing the waterway creates an interior drainage problem. Rain is still falling behind the gate. Local drainage canals are still delivering water, and that water now needs another route out. 11 large pumps provides that route. Their combined maximum capacity is 19,140 cubic feet per second. That is about 8.6 million gallons every minute. Water enters the complex from the protected side. The pumps lift and push it through the structure. Then it is released beyond the closed surge gate. The complex can therefore perform two opposite jobs at the same time. Block water coming in, move water going out. This single outer structure also reduced direct surge exposure along approximately 25 miles of interior levees, flood walls, gates, and pumping facilities. That reduction is important. Every mile removed from direct surge pressure means fewer locations where a hidden weakness can become a breach. But even with the major barriers complete, Katrina had revealed another vulnerability: the backside of the levees. Imagine surge rising beyond the design condition. Water begins crossing the crest. The front slope may remain intact. The concrete flood wall may still stand. But on the landward side, fast-moving water attacks exposed soil. Once scour starts, the defense can unravel from behind. So engineers added armoring to critical locations. Not everywhere uses the same material. Some sections can be reinforced with specially maintained grass and turf reinforcement mats. Others require articulated concrete blocks, erosion control systems, rock or concrete protection. Transitions receive particular attention. The point where an earthen levee meets a concrete wall, the area surrounding a pipeline crossing. The landward toe where water accelerating down a slope changes direction. These details may look insignificant beside a mile-long surge barrier, but transitions concentrate forces. A perfectly strong wall can still fail where one material, elevation, or structural system meets another. The post-Katrina armoring program identified dozens of miles where greater erosion resistance could keep an overtopping event from immediately becoming a breach. This does not make overtopping harmless. It gives the system more resilience, more time. And in a flood emergency, time can separate evacuation from entrapment. Construction alone was not enough. A system this large needed operational rules. Storm forecasts are monitored. Expected surge levels are compared with gate closing criteria. Navigation traffic must be cleared. Operators are positioned at major structures. Closure mechanisms are activated. Pumps are prepared. Backup systems are checked. And hundreds of smaller access gates across the perimeter must also be secured.
Seals appear to be holding up well.
One missed road opening can undermine the
I'll mark
logic
that in
of the
report.
entire closed loop. The system faced an early real-world test during Hurricane Isaac in 2012. As the storm approached, major barriers and gates were closed. The West Closure Complex was operated during a tropical event for the first time. Its 225-foot sector gate blocked the waterway, while its pumping station handled interior drainage. The rebuilt defenses did not make the region immune to flooding. Areas outside the perimeter still faced serious water. Rainfall still created local problems, but the integrated system around Greater New Orleans operated as a connected defense rather than a collection of isolated structures. That distinction is everything. A surge barrier without canal closures leaves another route open. Canal closures without pumps trap rainfall. Pumps without reliable power stop when the grid fails. Tall levees without protected rear slopes can erode during overtopping. And strong individual projects without secure tie-ins leave water a path around their ends. The fortress is not one object. It is the coordination between all of them. There is also one number that must be understood correctly. The system is commonly described as providing a 100-year level of risk reduction. That does not mean a major flood can occur only once every 100 years. It means the system is designed to reduce risk from a surge and wave event with a 1% chance of occurring or being exceeded in any given year. The probability resets every year, and the risk never reaches zero. The land continues to settle. Sea levels change. Storm behavior changes. Structures age. Pumps corrode. Levees require inspection, maintenance, and future lifts to preserve their design elevation. The Army Corps itself describes the system as risk reduction, not risk elimination. That is why the work continues after the concrete cures. Gates must be exercised. Pumps must be tested. Flood walls must be inspected. Levee elevations must be surveyed. Weak sections must be repaired before the next hurricane enters the Gulf. From the air, New Orleans appears surrounded by disconnected lines.
Flow is steady.
A wall across open marsh, a gate spanning a navigation channel, pump stations beside canals, levees following roads, lakes, and the Mississippi River. But connect those lines on a map, and the real structure appears. A defensive machine the size of a metropolitan region. The Lake Borgne Barrier pushes the first fight outward. The canal gates prevent Lake Pontchartrain from entering the city's drainage arteries. The pumps keep rainfall moving when those arteries are sealed. The West Closure Complex protects the West Bank while preserving interior drainage. The levees and flood walls connect everything into a perimeter. And the armored rear slopes provide a final layer of resilience if water crosses the top.
Let me check that level.
Katrina showed what happens when multiple weaknesses align during one enormous storm. The rebuilt system answers with multiple layers that must align in the opposite direction. Forecasting, closure, pumping, barriers, levees, armoring, maintenance. New Orleans did not build an impossible wall. It built something harder, a system in which every structure depends on the next one. A fortress that must open every day, close before the water arrives, drain a city while surrounded by a storm, and be ready to do it again for decades. Because the greatest lesson of Katrina was not that one wall failed. It was that a city can only be as protected as the weakest connection in the entire system.